Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today, if you don't mind, I'd like to continue on with our discussions on 1970s disaster movies. And I'd like to focus our attention today, if I may, on another very wonderful, special film. It's so frightening and so suspenseful and so effective. This film is from 1971, and the screenplay is credited to Nelson Gidding, and it is based upon a novel written by Michael Crichton, and it is directed by Robert Wise, and it stars, among others, in its really wonderful cast, people like Arthur Hill, David Wayne, James Olsen, Kate Reed, and others. This is the really chilling and supremely effective work, which is called The Andromeda Strain. Now, if we were to try to focus on the plot or story of the film, The Andromeda Strain, we would very likely focus in on this satellite which has been in outer space, but then it crashes into this particular small town in the United States, in New Mexico. And after this incident occurs, it is discovered that the population, the people who live there, who inhabit the area, they all die in very scary and under mysterious circumstances, except for a couple of survivors. Now, it is suspected that perhaps there is some kind of virus or infection that was brought or that came about in relation to or otherwise as a result of this particular incident involving the outer space satellite. And so it falls upon this team of scientists who have to employ very cold and calculated methods in order to try to ascertain and determine and discover exactly what happened, why did this occur, what is the source of the people dying, is there indeed some kind of strain or virus or some kind of disease that was brought as a result of this satellite traveling through space, and what of the circumstances involving the specific survivors, the people who are still alive, even though the rest of the community are found dead. And therein lies the situation of this particular mystery that is at the heart of this very terrifying tale, expertly told, wonderfully effective, and just a supreme entertainment all around. Will they discover the truth behind the Andromeda Strain in time? Therein lies the fundamental question behind the film, and it is on that basis that this film really takes off and becomes this suspenseful, exciting entertainment. This is the film The Andromeda Strain. And in that description, it is, I think, a film, or I think one can get a sense of the fact or the possibility of seeing this film once again through a number of perspectives. I have taken the opportunity in the context of this discussion on 1970s disaster movies to bring up The Andromeda Strain, because I think it can be seen through one of those perspectives as a type of disaster movie. After all, it is from the 1970s, and it does involve a disaster of sorts, or perhaps the possibility of a really widespread disaster that is due to, or it comes about as a result of some kind of unknown disease or infection or virus or spread, etc. And so we have that possibility in place. We already see early on the effects of such situation that befalls this particular community, and we see this group of scientists, the protagonists of the film, if you will, trying in their own ways to work together, but also pool their resources and their talents and their strengths as scientists and as pursuers of truth and answers to try, in this case, to find the answer to this particular dangerous and very volatile and mysterious situation involving the Andromeda Strain. And so in that way, I think it can be classified as a type of disaster film that involves infection or virus or strain of some sort. It can also be said to be a science fiction type of suspense thriller. It is also, in an interesting way, a type of procedural, in the sense that we are following the process that these scientists go through, and there is a real focus on the nitty-gritty detail, not just in terms of the investigation as to what this particular strain is and what are the causes of it, how it develops, how it grows, what are its weaknesses, etc., if any. It's not just the investigation into those steps, although that is a very fascinating part of this film. Another, I think, a very similarly situated, fascinating part is also in the process of getting to the particular lab area in the first place. And there is, in this way, or in this process, I think, highlighted most significantly this idea of an inherent sense of infection, or the idea that the human body needs to be disinfected in order to maintain a sense of the utmost cleanliness. And the cleanliness in terms of the environment is paramount and key in order to not just fulfill or carry out various experiments that rely on the need for a clean environment, a disinfected environment. But that also brings to light or calls attention to the fact that this is a film that focuses in on the nature of infection, the mysterious qualities that surround the various circumstances or situations in respect of said infection, and how this idea or theme of infection is not just the subject matter of the plot, but also within the periphery, and it involves concepts of ourselves and the body that might not necessarily be part of a science fiction genre film. So in that way, it's a science fiction genre film, but it's also a kind of procedural, and I really admire that type of blending of excitement and also the process that we follow step by step by step by step, or level by level by level by level, as we encounter in terms of the environment and the laboratory and the specific facilities that we also are engaged with as the film progresses. So these facets of the film, I think, are quite fascinating. And in this whole context, the film is, I would also suggest, utterly terrifying and very disturbing. There are some scenes in this film that are truly and genuinely creepy and very, what's the phrase? They get under one's skin. Indeed, there are some scenes that are just quite eerie, and we have combinations of image and music and very almost nuanced and stylized camera angle work and frames, etc., that are really effective in showing a sense of isolation and claustrophobia, and also the need for some kind of structure or barriers. the idea of layers of protection, but are we really protected, or is that just an illusion? And the cold and very clinical and almost cold-hearted nature of the need or the process toward trying to determine certain answers to various questions raised in the context of the scientific method, as depicted in the form of the cinematic expression known as the Andromeda Strain. And so this makes the film, or these aspects make the film utterly terrifying and very chilling. And there are some scenes that are truly, truly disturbing. And there are some scenes involving laboratories and test subjects as well that are very chilling and, as I say, very disturbing. They might be too disturbing for a number of people, but when we take a step back and we think about the overall effect of the film and how it is trying to, or the way in which it's telling its story, we also recognize that there are elements of action and suspense, and the way that the characters are also portrayed too, that really gives the film a further sense of grounded tension. And I really mean this. I really love the way that the scientists, these characters, are portrayed. Arthur Hill and James Olsen and David Wayne and Kate Reed, they form this wonderful combination or team of scientists, each having his or her own set of characteristics, character quirks, character traits that are on display in their own little subtle ways, but also in their direct ways as well. And I love the earnest nature of their performances. There is a great sense of chemistry. They each have their own distinct personalities that have their shining moments, as it were, in various parts of the film. And so that really helps and further pushes forth the film into the realm of the genuinely scary and creepy, because the more grounded, I think, the circumstances of the story feel, I think the more accessible they become to the viewer. And if these circumstances involving really scary situations become more potentially accessible, then I think that link makes the whole subject matter a truly frightening experience indeed, at least potentially so. And so I like these factors and how they all play towards, or they work together towards, the ultimate goal of creating a truly harrowing and effective piece of cinematic expression, as we see in the Andromeda Strain. And a lot of that has to do with the performances and how excellent they really are. I also love the fact that the film uses or relies upon a type of visual medium, schematic drawings made or three-dimensional models, computers from that particular era. There is this, and I love this use of technology. There is a type of alienation effect when we see this technology employed, and that, I think, further emphasizes the fact that this is a very cold and clinical process, and it needs to be in order to be scientifically accurate, because if there is any kind of infection from the outside world, then that risks totally skewing any type of scientific data that could otherwise be derived from their experiments. And so this, I think, forms part of the crux of the feel of the film, which is this cold environment. And but we have introduced into this environment, as I was indicating earlier, these really warm and rich characters, the scientists, and their personalities, I think, shine through even in this sort of cold and clinical environment. And what I love too is that the focus is on a type of scientific-based discussions, and they're essentially discussing and debating with each other as to what the possible causes could be and what certain conclusions can be drawn based on the research and the data. And I love that, and I love how we see characters in real time, as it were, thinking and trying to figure out a problem in their head. And I love when films show characters thinking, and there's a lot of that here, and they do that under pressure. And there are also some pretty violent and quite gruesome images, as well as scenes of, I would say, kind of action or suspense. And so this film could also be said to be a real effective blending of many genres. We had the disaster film genre that I was referring to earlier. We also have the science fiction genre. We also have the horror film genre. And also we have the action or suspense film genre to a certain degree anyway. And so I love this particular blend or mix. But ultimately, I think the film it always keeps its focus on the characters and on the process and on their ultimate mutual goal of trying through the scientific process or the application of the scientific method to find the answer to the question of what exactly is the key to understanding the Andromeda Strain. And so this whole sort of cinematic expression, I think, is again multifaceted and multi-leveled, and thus creating, I think, an overall effective and harrowing and suspenseful and exciting and shocking experience all around. And taking one further step back, it is also, I think, classifiable as a type of disaster movie, because we are again talking about the dissection of the problem that is a widespread one, or potentially widespread one, of quite significant implications, thus being yet another example, if you will, of a disaster or a potential disaster, if you will. And I must say that the skill and the artistry that comes together from the filmmakers here, led by Robert Wise and his crew, really give us, in visual terms, in striking visual terms, the way that certain, say, split screens are used, the way that lenses are applied in order to show depth and also close-ups of faces, the way that monitors or frames within frames are used, the way that on-screen text is used in order to add that sense of reality, and also the pressures of time and the limited amount of time that these people have within the space that they are working in. And sounds and poetically applied use of music, as well as effects, and the little details, as well as the human moments. That's another thing too that's really remarkable about this film, is that how it captures those very, very minute yet so significant details of human interaction and human activity. And those little details have potentially far-reaching consequences, and it's captured so well and so genuinely, so to speak, through the cinema of Robert Wise and company. And I love that, and it's all about those little details that build to some kind of ultimate and perhaps even epic and wide-ranging and sort of a wide-sweeping conclusion of sorts. And it's all down to the capturing of those little details that really make all the difference. And so for these and other reasons, I think this film, The Andromeda Strain, remains a truly horrifying and utterly effective science fiction thriller. And it's another great example, I would suggest, of 1970s disaster movies. This is the film, The Andromeda Strain. Okay, my friends, so that's it for now. And so until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well. And please keep on watching a lot of great, great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.